Well, well, well. I'm D Nice, and this is the Gospel Jazz Connection music and conversation, where we talk about things that are relevant and prevalent to your life. And we also play that smooth jazz that lets you relax, let you sit back and just think about things and reflect upon the day. And you know what? Today is the day the Lord has made. So let us rejoice and be glad. Today I got a great group in front of me. This is a group of the worldwide, world famous organization known as Toastmasters. But what makes it so unique, this is the number one in my book. And you'll see it as it goes along. Segment, which is District 1. So we're doing this segment, which is Toastmasters through the eyes of District 1. And we got three of our pristine leaders here. One is in the top 3. So the target is on him. Mr. Ken Starks, so we appreciate you coming down and spending time with us before you make it to the head of the class next year. And so we have him here today. That's Ken. Ken, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And then beside him, the beautiful lady you see right there, the hostess with the mostest, Miss Jackie Jones. How are you, Jackie?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Thanks for coming down. I know you stay busy teaching French and teaching kids and doing tour schedules and all that other thing that you do. And still the wife, the mother, and grandmother and everything else. So, hey, good to have you. And last but not least, you guys will recognize him. He's the other half of the team that's been with us for a long time through the Gospel Jazz Connection scene. The one, the only, Mr. Michael Jones. Mike, thanks for coming down.
Thank you for having us.
And we've got some great conversation today, man. So we're just going to kick this off. But first thing what I want to do is I'm always bringing something new to the table. And this is no different. This is a guy that we've worked with in the music industry, and he's got a voice that he's got a history, first and foremost. He got caught up in the drugs, you know what I'm saying, which a lot of our generations had, and spent a few years in prison for the drug scene and found his way. And God blessed him to get him through that segment safely, get him in his right mind, and let him see the voice that he had. And you'll be able to have a chance to share the voice that he has. He writes the music, he sings the music, plays all the instruments, and he's such a blessing. And this guy we're going to listen to right now is Tim Kepler, reaching for his album right now. And the name of this one is Forgiven. And he's got a great message for us. So I want to go from Ramsey to let us hear Tim Kepler with Forgiven, because this is the Gospel Jazz Connection, and no, we love you here. So let me switch over and get him ready for, okay, let's get him started. This is Tim Kepler. Forgiven. On the Gospel Jazz Connection. Let's listen to it. Sit back, relax for the next hour, and watch with your ears.
My righteousness.
till a voice from heaven rang and called me by name. I've been calling out to you. I said, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? Take my hand and I'll show you. I thought I had strayed too far away, kept hearing a voice from heaven say, now I'm walking in destiny. My mind and soul are free. The same voice is calling you. So tell me, what are you gonna do? Well, can't you hear the Spirit coming through? Hey, calling out to you. Oh, just say, Lord, what is it that you want me to do? Take my hand and I'll show you. You didn't stray too far away. That voice from heaven just keeps saying, I'll return to you if you change your way. He'll take control. Come on, if you just change your way. Come on and change your way. Ooh, change your way. It really ain't hard to do. He's right there waiting on you. So change your way. Oh, hey. Oh, just return to me. Oh, yeah. Return to you if you change your way. Take control. Come on, let go. Oh, change your way. Come on and change. Just turn around now. Come on and change your way. Come on, change.
Yeah, we're back. We started at the top of that set with Tim Kepler, Forgiven. And I'm opening this mic up for comments. Well, that was wild. But then when I'm at it, the second young lady we heard from is my other hostess that's here with me. I talked about Makita. And Makita's been singing for ages. She's been with everybody on tour. When I met her, she was with Tina Marie. She was background singer for Tina Marie, and she opened for Tina, sang back for Tina. It goes on. Eric Benet, she's been with everybody. The latest venture she has is the lead singer for Rolls Royce, the female voice, the lead on Rolls Royce for the last 5 years. So Makita stays busy, you know what I'm saying? She was on the latest Drake album. She's just doing the thing. So it's good to find somebody who really knows their craft, and she'll be back to join us. But those are some examples. So some of the people that do what they do in musically. Now these are examples of people that do what they do vocally. And so we're bringing back up our Toastmasters today. Mr. Ken Starks, we're going to start with you since the camera's on you, and we're going to talk about some of the things that brought you there, what's kept you there, and where you see this going now that you have your hand touched inside this thing called Toastmasters District 1. So be my guest, and let's start talking. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ken Starks.
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me here today. I started attending Toastmasters about 10 years ago. And I remember I was at work one day and I saw a flyer in the break area, and it invited people to come and develop their public speaking skills. And so I thought to myself that this would be a good opportunity for me to develop my public speaking skills. So I attended the club meeting. And at the time, I had just started working in management for the U.S. Postal Service.
Okay.
And I was thrown into having to develop presentations. I was an analyst, so I was developing presentations, and sometimes I was also having to present the information on the presentations. And I found myself in a position where I didn't really have a strategy on how to approach the public speaking aspect of the presentation. And so when I saw that flyer inviting people to come and attend the club meeting, I went and attended a club meeting. And at the time, the name of the club was Soaring Eagles. It was a club that was born out of the U.S. Postal Service. There were members or employees who worked for the Postal Service who thought it was a great idea, so they chartered this club.
Right.
And the club had been around for about 8 years before I had joined. And when I walked into that meeting, I think, as anyone would be, was a little nervous and a little concerned. I didn't know what to expect. But by the time I left, I knew that it would be something that I would be a part of for a long time.
Right.
Because the people were warm, they were supportive. I watched how they treated each other, how they nurtured each other emotionally, how they gave them quality feedback to help them improve their public speaking. And I thought it was the best environment for me to be able to develop this skill. So that's a little bit about how I became a part of Toastmasters, is from that experience at work. And then feeling the people and just enjoying the experience is what has kept me there.
Right. And you know, when I came on the scene and was first familiarized with your work, it was as a competitive speaker. You were doing the competitions, and that seemed to be your niche because you were good at what you did. You know, you dressed the part, you looked the part, you spoke the part, and I was really memorized by the way that you would come up with these topics and make him come alive. And it was like, okay, I like this. So he's got it. And so I was doing the leadership aspect of it at the time. But I was really just thrilled by what you did. But I also saw something deeper in you because, I mean, you always carried yourself with confidence without that aloofness, you know, because everybody wants to be the man, so to speak. And so to be able to find somebody who is the man and doesn't have to let the world know it. Because usually the guys that put it out there like that usually are trying to overcompensate for the lack thereof. But you carried yourself when you spoke, it was you were just meticulous in what you did and how you presented things. And to see you now in the leadership role that you're at, man, thanks for being obedient. Because we're all believers here, and there's routes that we have to take in our journey. And so now you're in a position where you can make changes. And bringing it home a little closer, because we are known as District 1 in this particular environment in the world, District 1. And as we were talking earlier off camera, as the top tier, so to speak, moves in and out, they're bringing their own personalities, their own ways of doing things, their own complexities, their own, learning curves or whatever. But, I was able to watch you as a speaker, watch you develop. And, as a leader and seeing you now where you're at, then it gives me confidence in the outlook and the journey that we will be taking with District 1. And that's what we're all about right now, District 1. There's a lot of districts. I don't know how many districts. You know better than I do. How many districts? Yeah, that's a lot of districts. That's a lot of folk. But what we have to concentrate on is our backyard. And so it's so good to find you saying, okay, let me shoulder some of this responsibility of the way that it was and bring it from the way it is to where I see the visionaries. And it's always good to have a team around you that understands. And the young lady you have sitting to my right, your left, has been one of the intricate parts in the fine-tune movement. And I got a chance to work with her when I was in leadership, and work with also her husband, Michael. And it was just such a great thing to see you guys coming through and getting your DTMs, your PhDs. A DTM is like a PhD for those that don't know. You just can't wake up one day and get it off the back of a Mad magazine like you can get ordinations nowadays, okay? Surprising or not. But you got to work for this. And so that says a lot to get where you're at, and to have a supporting staff like you have here. I look forward to some bigger and better things. So we're going to just kind of like put that on the side for a moment, where you see the outlook coming, and let's turn to have that you would say make you look good. And let's start with Ms. Jackie, and talk about some of the things that you've went through and some of your aspirations, what you see in, and everything Toastmasters District 1.
Toastmasters District 1?
Yeah. You like that name?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
sorry about that.
My Toastmasters journey started with a club that no longer exists, but it was called Shop and Travel, and I figured I like to shop and I like to travel.
Right.
So that was a perfect chance for me to dip my feet in the Toastmasters speak. I did most of my early speeches there, and then I branched out. Because I was still working, I could not join Justice Masters, where Michael is still a member, and I am too, because it meets on Thursdays from 12:15 to 1:15, and I was still working, so that didn't work. But I did join Shop and Travel. I dipped my toe in, and somehow I followed along and became, you dragged us in, D-Nice, you dragged us in to district administration when he was an area director. He goes, come on, be my helpers. I didn't know what I was doing, and then the next year I was an area director, which is it's interesting. An area director is someone who's responsible for 5 clubs, five or six clubs, yes. Right. Who visits the clubs at least twice a year, who gets to know the administration and helps them to achieve everyone's goal of being President's Distinguished. Because when you're President's Distinguished, you have a healthy club.
Right.
You are bringing in members, you're retaining the members you have, the members are continuing to work towards their educational goals, and there are a couple of more benchmarks that you have to meet. But if you meet all of those, then you become President's Distinguished. And like I said, the striving to be that helps clubs become healthy. And I liked some of my clubs so much I joined them.
Right. I think that has a tendency to happen, huh?
Yeah. But it was an opportunity to see how different clubs took the same set of parameters and made them their own. If you have a club that meets once a month for 2 hours, that's one way. If you have a club that meets every week for 1 hour, then you have to do the same thing a little bit differently. And that allowed me to do that.
I love it. And you've been doing it well. Like I said, you just have gotten you're new to your DTM position, your PhD.
I'm brand new.
Yeah. So, yes, go Jackie. It was well overdue. But thank you for joining the ranks. And for folks, let me tell you something. For the time and grade they put in there, until you get that DTM, it's almost like you've been running races all your life and you never won anything substantial, and then you go into the Olympics, and then you just, there it is. You're standing on stage in the Olympics, and you're like, wow, all this time are preparatory. Little did you know. But yes, it's congratulations. Now let's go to your significant other here, Dr. Michael Jones. They already know who you are. You've been here in front of Mike with us many a time. So you talk to us about some of the experiences that you've been through. You know what I'm saying? I know you worked with me as an area governor, and you got your feet wet, and many times I would throw you out in the middle of the lake, and without even doing the pool thing, just let's go into the ocean and like, look at that fish over there, and then push you over. You know what I'm saying? Because I knew you could swim. You come with a lot of experience behind you. You were president of the Chamber of Commerce for Crenshaw. You've got your own business. You know what I'm saying? You've been in the game for a while. So I knew that you could handle it. Sometimes it takes somebody pushing you over the plank for you really say, oh, man, I didn't know I was a Navy SEAL inside until you have to do it. And I appreciate you taking the time of having my back and, making it to where I didn't have to make this pull out the whip kind of scenario, because you jumped right in and you got this. You got it. Your passion came out, and here you sit moving on to the next level. So give us some of the pros and cons that you went through that made you who you are today in Toastmasters District 1.
Well, I think we need to back up to about 2013.
Okay.
I was just an outstanding member at Holman United Methodist Church. And I sat next to this Superior Court judge by the name of Patty Titus. Mm-hmm. And she said, you know what, you really need to come to my club, Justice Masters, who meets in Inglewood, a Toastmasters club.
Right.
And she bugged me for 3 years almost.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, I'll be there. And then I went for the first time, and I saw something that I had never seen before. People who are dealing with the greatest fear out there, public speaking. They just freeze up. They don't know what to do.
Right.
And I saw people working through that to be able to take their game to the next level. What's so important about Toastmasters to me is the relationship between mentors and mentees, because the mentors act as true north to help the mentees to follow their pathway, to be able to speak with authority, to be able to really address some issues. Right. And many Toastmasters out there are really doing some wonderful things in politics and church, the pastors, they're everywhere. Mm-hmm. And it's a way to be able to step into what I call your purpose. Miles Monroe says, where purpose is not known, abuse is inevitable. And so many people kind of fall astray because they don't know what they're created to do. And there's a big challenge there. But Toastmasters is one to help you to get a good, solid footing and to be able to stand up and just really be able to speak to the world with things that you're passionate about, right. Things on your heart.
Yeah, I like that you brought that to bear. What Miles said, that made a lot of sense, and a lot of people don't realize it, but stop and think about it. Man, the purpose-driven lives, that's what we're missing out there. We live a life however we do it every
Absolutely.
day, but we're surrounded by people living a life too. And their life may be counteractive to yours. Their beliefs are different or whatever, and it may cause friction, confusion, or whatever. But if you have an understanding of your purpose, you can bypass a lot of things and, get through a lot of situations sometimes by saying, let me think this through. Is it beneficial for me to stop and correct somebody? And the way, sometimes we may feel like correcting because, see, you don't know what that other person went through before they left the house and locked the door behind them.
Absolutely.
Today. They might have had an argument with a significant other. The dog might have bit them, ate their homework. The kids talk crazy on probation at school. You don't know what somebody's been through. And so here you are walking out into your destiny, and sometimes people actually walk into their destiny because they don't come back. Wherever that end it is, we know it goes through by way of forced lawn. So sometimes we really have to sit and say, okay, let me make sure I'm right before I step out, because if the other guy is not right, at least let me have enough juice to overcompensate his lack. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And it's knowledge-based. And one thing that Toastmasters does, beside giving people the chance on having to put their ideas to paper, to watch it to make sense, to the delivery. That's the important part, because a lot of times it's not what you say but how you say it. If I sit back and I look at somebody and say, man, forget you, man, you know what I'm saying, then you look at Bristol like, oh, this brother. But if I just kind of like, man, forget you, you know what I'm saying? And some people use worse language than that. But at least if I do it the second way, they may take a little while. They may be in the car, the elevator, thinking about it. Did this brother actually? But by the time they figured it out, I'm gone. They're gone. And so that we bypass the drama that could have come out. You know what I'm saying? So it takes a time to be able to be on your game 24 hours a day. That's basically it is, because if you're not out here, I mean, a bird might put some droppings on you. Somebody pulls out in front of you in traffic and you have an everything is going to do what everything does.
Sure.
And it can surround you, involve you, or overtake you depending on how you look at it. So if you walk out with this whole armor, so to speak, we are taught to learn, put on the whole armor. Okay? If we walk out with our whole armor saying, I've got to watch out for everything and everybody, not paranoidal kind of watch out, you know what I'm saying? But not knowing what somebody else is thinking, what they're doing. But if you know yourself, oftentimes you can compensate for their lack or need thereof, whichever is appropriate. So constantly, you've got to be watching and thinking. And Toastmasters put you on your toes to where you're constantly, you got to have a rebuttal. If you're doing a debate, you got to have a rebuttal. If somebody says something and it's an objection, you got to overcome the objection. You got to identify what they don't like as a salesman. Where is the disconnect? Why are they not dishing out this money to buy this vacuum cleaner? Don't you know everybody gets dirt drugged into their house? Don't you know? And you're just trying to pitch them for the standard, what you learned, but you may not have that backstory that says, okay, they're allergic and they got allergies in pollen in their house that they're allergic to. So once you identify, oh, we have another device that hooks onto this that gets the pollen out of the air. That's all they wanted to hear. So they end up buying the vacuum cleaner because you touched on something that was relative to them. So Toastmasters, keeping you on your toes, gives you that thing that's relevant. When you're watching the news in the newspaper, they may say fake news and everything like that. But you know what? You just want to find it because you're looking at a canvas. A different artist sees a different rendition and it gives you a different portrait at the end of the day. But somewhere in that, there's a correlation. And if you find out what the correlation is, no matter for left or right, whoever they say, well, mine looks like this because of, or mine looks, you getting an overall view. And so you're able to have a rebuttal. That's what language does for you, the communicational skills do for you, okay? But the leadership aspect is different. The leadership aspect teaches you how to be responsible, oftentimes for yourself and for somebody else. Because they may not be up on their game. Not that they may not want to, but they may not know how to. So how do you do that? So as we get deeper into this, because this is something we're going to start doing once a month. So these are stimulating questions. And I thank you guys for, in your own way, bringing this necessity to bear, to where we're now enveloping this into what people can put their hands on, what they can hear, what they can see, and be a part of, and get their questions answered. So I'm throwing you guys out certain things because I want you to be stimulated mentally and start answering these questions in your head and asking more questions of the people that you're mentoring and monitoring, because they may not know they're walking on the wrong side of the street. And to this side of the street, you got kids that surfboard there because it's the smoothest part of the concrete. So every time you turn around, somebody's going to go jumping over your head with a skateboard that might hit you in the head. You don't know that. You're like, it's a sidewalk. I can walk on it. But this is what they use. But if somebody says, oh, man, be careful, man, because some kids come around there at 4 o'clock, they're going to come around there. They do it every day. Then you can be exposed. And if you walk there and you get hit, guess what? It's on you. It's not because you didn't know. So as you're informing people on what the pros and cons are, by bringing Michael in, by bringing Jackie in to help me out, I was able to let them see through the eyes of what I saw, what was going on, what had to be done, what could be done, and they had to put their style of how to get it done. I can always say, do this, and give you a checklist. I mean, you know, we went through this. Everybody else give us a checklist. When we're born, we're given a checklist. We've got to meet everybody else's standards, everybody else's qualifications, everybody else's, certification. We got to be certified by everybody. Come on now. When do we start certifying ourselves, qualifying ourselves? So by getting out there and being a part of doing the work, and they helped me out because many days I sit back and watch them do the work. I'm like, yeah, buddy. So it was benefiting me too. You follow what I'm saying? But that's good because also you get to see for yourself because you can only hold somebody's hand so long. And then when you let them go, what happens? You take the training wheels off. What happens? If they keep falling, they expect you to come pick them up. Dude, after a while, you're going to say, okay, I'm tired of falling. I've got to start learning how to balance. And so that's what we need. That's what Toastmasters brings in by having the component of leadership with the speaking. So let's flip it for a minute, guys, now that we have that premise set, and let's talk about the leadership aspect of it again and what you see in the leadership and how important it is to your daily activity on how you do it inside the organization, outside the organization, and put a reality base on it. So, Jackie, we're going to start with you on this, on the leadership aspect, and how important is that to you in life and inside of Toastmasters?
Well, leadership gives you different tools. You have to be organized. You have to be able to reach out and get in touch with people in different ways. We need to say that Toastmasters is an international organization, and it is all over the United States. So no matter where you go, if you look on the Toastmasters.org website, you can find a Toastmasters meeting and say, hey, I want to come visit your Toastmasters meeting, and they should be able to say, great, come on in. And Michael and I did that when we were in Paris. We visited an international meeting, and the cool thing is that the structure is the same.
Right.
Speeches, evaluations, table topics, but the leadership, in my case, it just helped me to step up my game because in a situation where I don't know anybody, I tend to not speak. I'll be over in the corner looking at my phone, reading some article.
Right.
But, you have to be able to say, hey, what's going on? How is your club doing here? How can I help you? What suggestions can I give? So you ask questions, you synthesize, you meet the people where they are, and see if you can get them from point A to point B to point C, the President's Distinguished. And sometimes it's difficult because one of the clubs I had was a club that's all college students, undergrads and graduates, and universities do not work on the Toastmasters calendar. You have to, they're out of school in May, so when are they going to put in their officers list? When are they going to have officers? When are they going to meet again? Because once they're in May, they don't meet again until September. And so that whole middle part, how are you going to get them trained and things like that. So sometimes it teaches you to think outside the box.
Right, and that's very important because I know about those college clubs. That's a challenge in itself, and I know you've, Ken, I know you've experienced that because you're in the aspect where you've got to make sure that they're all trained and educated and everything like that. And college students, man, dude, they know it all. They've been there, done that, and can teach you. Let them tell it. So their way of looking at responsibility is not our way. So if you tell them you need to be trained by a certain day, you probably got to start about 8 months early for them. You know what I'm saying? Because they always got something going on. Oh, I checked my schedule. We're here on that day. We're not there on that day. And it's a challenge. So I commend you for dealing with these college kids because half the people I know would just sit back and say, scrap the clubs. No more college clubs. That's the easiest way to do way out. But hitting it straight on, I could appreciate you doing that. All right, let's switch over to Michael because I know you were in charge of the area governors and run the gauntlet, and you've been involved with college clubs too. So the leadership aspect of that and how you were able to circumvent that I know it all, and helped them to understand they need to know it. Not at all, but you know what I'm saying? Give me that experience from your outlook.
Well, one of the things that helped me along, you serving as my mentor, you took your time to assess what my skills were, my abilities, my talents, things I did well, things that I needed improvement on. And while you didn't give me a report, you basically set up situations to help me with those things, to be able to arise and to be able to thrive and to really help people along the game. I remember my first assignment was an assistant area director, where I was given 7 clubs under your leadership, and to be able to go to all those clubs and do officer installations. And it wasn't a situation where you go to college and then you graduate and then you go ahead and do those things. You threw me in the water, and my response was, who pushed me?
Right.
But it was through those times where we could debrief and talk about the leadership experience. We could talk about the different things that we did to help me become an area director all by myself with another seven clubs. And then to go on to be a division director with 31 clubs. And then to just keep on going and achieving my distinguished Toastmaster. So it's listening, it's having people that are there that are really not going to help you from falling, but they're going to help you go through the process to understand what's going on. How could you do this better? I was one of the only division directors to have a millennial area director, which was a very interesting perspective for me because they see things differently. And those of us that are a little bit older dealing with millennials, it's kind of like, it's like oil and water.
Right.
It's not mixing.
Right.
I sat down with this young man because he was working with a college club. And I said, tell me, what do you see from your perspective? And he basically gave me a real good millennial view of what he saw, which was very insightful. And he basically helped me to understand and curb my leadership with him to be able to help him to be successful at what he was doing. So I think the greatest thing about Toastmasters, we meet people where they are.
Right.
And we don't come in and just tear them apart and shoot them down. We encourage. We basically come alongside and say, okay, let's dust yourself off. Let's get up. Let's try again.
Right.
This time, let's do it a little bit differently. And I think that's the key to it. And you'll see that, as Jackie mentioned, in Paris. You'll see it at other Toastmasters clubs all across the country, where people have this same idea, both helping people to be the best communicators as well as being the best leaders. If you're a best communicator all the time, you might get kind of arrogant and you think and kind of believe your own story sometimes. But when you balance it off with leadership, you grow together and you can help so many people.
Right.
And that's what's really important.
I love it, man, because like I said, you got it. You know what I'm saying? It's funny as I sit back and, you look over the landscape and I see what I try to do by putting you in certain situations and watching, see how you maneuver it. And it may be uncomfortable, but it's those uncomfortable times that allow us to see what our frailties are and also to image our strengths. So I like that. But you went beyond what I would thought. Like I said, you have really just picked up the gauntlet and just, I thought I was sipping this Kool-Aid. You just drank it about a gallon. And so that's our inside joke on that one there.
Yes, sir.
But, so you're putting in time and great, and I like that. Now, Mr. Ken Starks, like I said, your rise to fame has been very methodical. You're a thinker, and I like that because this is what we need now, what our brothers to see. You know what I'm saying? Because we're in a time now to where they're saying Black Lives Matter. We're trying to tell our young men what they have to do to survive more so than ever before. But knowing that and understanding that this is an organization that people can tell you all day long, dude, you know what I'm saying? Get off my back. I mean, it's a nonprofit. I'm not getting paid for this. And there's only a certain amount of energy we're going to give to something we're not getting paid for, unless it's our passion. Okay? You got to love it to do it for free. I mean, I'm Okay, let me know if I'm wrong. But I've watched you go from the lineage of the competitional route so that you knew what to say and what they looked for in competitions and what they graded on and critiqued on. And then through the leadership that you were doing in the club, and you were able to learn enough to skip a few grades. Let's put it like that. And sometimes in old school, when you were in those small country towns where you were in the same classroom and you heard enough from the teacher teaching the fifth graders, and you were a third grader, but you were eating up all your assignments, and then you were working on the fifth grade assignment after a while. They said, man, there's no need for you to go to the fifth grade. Come on, let's put him through the sixth. And oftentimes you'll find out that they may have advanced you too quickly, and then some people take that challenge and rise to it. And where you sit now second in command, then you were able to rise to it and find all these experiences. So at what point did you find that experience that you said, okay, this is it, I got it, that make you and built that DNA characteristic as a second in command Toastmasters for our district that you are today? What was it? Where was that pivotal point in you?
Well, it was a long time coming for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just started getting involved in the leadership aspect of this district within the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And the first 8 years in Toastmasters, I was raising my daughter.
Right.
And my commitment was to making sure that, I had an opportunity to spend time with her, and I didn't have anything that interfered with that.
Mm-hmm.
But during that time, I was watching and I was paying attention. And as I am listening to you and Michael talk and exchange, and Michael talk about how you pushed him, it's the same thing that Michael did to me.
Right.
So it's strange in thinking about how really on a subconscious level, the two of you conspired to have me be here today.
Needed, much
For
needed.
me being in the program quality director
Right.
position, it largely is a result of me watching you as a division director, as an area director, watching Michael as a division director, as an area director. The both of you were directors over my club, so we had an opportunity to spend a lot of time together.
Right.
So I had an opportunity to really watch you guys. And I come from a family of 5 boys.
Mm-hmm.
My father, very strong, proud man. And I look for that type of role model.
Right.
And the both of you were that type of role model for me.
Thank you.
So as I was spending my years competing and just really learning what Toastmasters was really all about, I was watching and paying attention, and I liked how you and Michael carried yourself, how you conducted yourself, how you led with integrity. It wasn't about being abrasive, and it was about partnering. It was about making sure that you had everything you needed in support. And I watched that and learned that from the two of you guys, and I told myself that I want to experience what they've experienced. And how I became program quality director, I really didn't know I would be in this position.
Right. Got you.
When I first signed up in Toastmasters and I joined the club, I had no intention. I didn't say to myself, I want to be program quality director at the time. In fact, I didn't know what it was for probably a good 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
Because I was focused in my club, trying to develop my public speaking skills. But this past year, another mentor came to me and said, you know what? Maybe you should run for program quality director. And I had no intention. I was looking forward to ending my division director year and doing some things that I love and enjoy.
Right.
And I told him I would think about it. And I thought about it. And I reflected back on why I became a part of district leadership, why I became an area director, why I became a district director. And then I looked at the opportunity. The first thing that stood out was the responsibility, which shook me up a little bit. I'll just be honest with you. 3,000 members plus 170 clubs, being responsible for that level of, people and clubs, it can be kind of overwhelming in just thinking about it.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I thought about why I became a part of leadership. And the reason why I became a part of leadership is because I wanted to become a better leader. I wanted to see how Toastmasters could make me a better leader. And then I realized that you had mentioned a little bit about it before. I realized that it's different from being in a business. I currently work as an IT manager for the Postal Service, and I manage a team of people, but we have a policy. We have procedures. If I give an employee instructions, the employee has to follow those instructions, or else there's a process by which we can correct that.
Right.
In Toastmasters, it's different. These are volunteers.
Yeah.
So I knew that becoming a leader in Toastmasters would teach me other tools and resources to use when dealing with people. And it made me become a better leader for my employees at work. So I had an opportunity to do it at an area level where I was responsible for 4 clubs.
Right.
And then I did it at a division level where I was responsible for 42 clubs. Now as quality director, I'm responsible for the education and training of 171 clubs or so.
Right.
So for me, as I was reflecting on making the decision to run or to not run as the program quality director, I knew that this would be a great opportunity for me to learn to become a better leader, and then also it would give me an opportunity to give back and service people, which is really important to me.
Right. Yeah, service, servant leadership is one of the aspects of leadership. But a lot of us don't want to be in the background, I love the background. When I started out back in the day, I was in front of cameras, and everybody just knew I was going to be that next, whoever it was, Billy D, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I had what they said I needed in the industry. But I wasn't happy because I'm looking around me and nobody else was happy either. They were doing a job and they were out there on the lines waiting for calls and doing this and doing that. I'm like, dude, this is happy? You're waiting for, it would be different if people were just calling you and saying, okay, I got to go here today, there today, you know what I'm saying? And it was just automatic. But you still, even Denzel has got to get scripts in. He's got to audition in a way. He may not be able to do it like everybody else does it, but still, your work is never complete. You're never guaranteed a job unless you have somebody that's a great prolific writer that's writing scenes directly for you, that's got your name all over it, and the director, that's that 1 in a billion times. But dude, I like being able to fashion what I see, what I do, and what I'm a part of. And now behind the scenes, I can tell if an actor is on his mark, if he's on his game, if he needs to elevate, I can help him elevate because I know what to look for and what they're looking for. And I know how to find out what he has and how to push him to that level. And in your position, you have to do that. And sometimes you got to look past their phobias. Because the phobias will tell them, oh, dude, I'm happy here. And people are happy here because they're comfortable. When you take that comfortability from around them, that security blanket that they grow through life to have, they leave it alone from the blanket or from the teddy bear or whatever it is, and then it becomes a different name you use, but it's still a security blanket. You know what I'm saying? Some people use their significant other as a security blanket.
Sure.
But, you know what I'm saying, turn it around to the couple here with Michael and Jackie, then they had their security blanket because they worked with each other. And so that's how they flipped that. You got to find a way to flip things to your work. And so working with your wife, working with your husband, then you could talk about it and not be mad about talking about it at the end of the day and comparing notes and how do we get better. And so you're doing it with love versus if I'm out there with somebody 24 hours a day, I'm like, you're doing this for all day, you're getting on my last nerve, okay? And so then you start browbeating. It happens. You can't run from that because in your position with 100 and over 150, 160, 170 now, but who knows what the numbers may be next week. And so your opportunity, responsibility is going to continue to mount. So you've got to be able to look over and find out in your playing field, who's got a potential to where if your quarterback goes down, you got a new quarterback. If your running back gets his leg broke, you got somebody in safety, because you got to continue to have those positions, because that other team is not letting up. They're coming to run that ball down your throat. And so you've got to be able to know who can do what job. They may not see it in themselves, but you may see him catch a ball with such a, strategic situation. You say, man, maybe he could throw it just as good. And you try it. And every time you try somebody in a position they do it, then you say, okay, good. That's another one. That's a backup. That's a backup. That's a backup. So going into the future, okay, what do you see? Hold that thought. Hold that thought. Let's go back, because we got a few minutes left. Let's go back. Jackie, in your position, in your aspirations and your passions, what do you see for the future with you in this Toastmasters journey called District 1?
Well, I'm not quite so sure. Ken has revived, I think, the sense of administrative duty. I don't know whether I'm going to try to be a division director. Because, Ken was raising his daughter. Now, we have our dad, and we also have young grandchildren.
Right.
So I'm going to hang out. I'm going to be a part of different clubs, and I've been area director twice. So, not that I have that down. The first time I figured I did it so badly, I had to do it again and make it right. So
Okay.
I did that well.
Okay.
And I'm, when the time comes, then I might step up, or better yet, I will support my husband
Right.
in what he wants to do.
That was a politically correct answer if I ever heard one, wasn't it? Okay, now let's go over to Beaming Michael, because now he is just like, boom. Okay, Mr. Jones.
Yes, sir.
What do you see for your future in Toastmasters through the eyes of District 1?
Well, I have so many people like yourself that have made me a priority. They don't consider me just out there just being somebody patting you on the head. They're really invested in my time and my talent and the treasures that I have to offer. And right now, we have a responsibility of taking care of our family, which is so important, taking care of a 99-year-old Jackie's dad, to be able to help him to be the very best that he can be and get past challenges. So family is first right now. However, if things change in the future, you never know. I have a good background in which to spring from. I have good mentors and mentees, that people that I'm just seeing them excel after time spent with them. I'm so proud of Ken. We first met in a parking lot, and from there he's just bloomed and blossomed.
Right.
And some exciting times. But I think we all have reassigned leadership. We redefined leadership to the point where something, not like we see with some people in government right now, but something different, something that makes a change, something that people can respect and put their arms around. So I'm just kind of holding tight right now, doing the very best that I can as a good son-in-law to take care of my father-in-law, and we'll just see what happens in the future.
So until next week, like I each and every weekly tell you guys, put God first and everything else will follow. I guarantee it. From Makita, from Miss M, from Michael, from Jackie, from Sade, this is D-Nice, Jazz Connection, where you can sit back, relax, and watch with your ears.